My name is James Wildman. I am the Humane Educator for the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida. And I first would just like to thank Farm Animal Rights Movement for setting up this platform. This is the third and final time that I will be speaking in this series. And it's been a pleasure working with them. And again, I can't thank them enough for setting this up. The videos, the first two that we did, the one on veganism, 101 Reasons to Go Vegan, and the one on wildlife conservation, are both actually available to view, and this one will be available shortly. You can go to Ask Veli, so it's AskVeli.com, askveli.com, and it's Farm's new curated library of vegan videos. And they actually have over 1,500 videos. It's pretty amazing. I just took a really quick look at it. So if you get a chance, go over there, and not right now though, but later on, check it out. So let us get started. So again, I work for the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida. Been working for ARF as the Humane Educator since 2007. I give about 500 presentations every year on different animal rights issues, from veganism to wildlife conservation, to companion animals, to animal testing, to animals in our backyard. I speak to all different age groups of every demographic. And I also have a master's degree in humane education from the Institute for Humane Education. And it's a distance learning program that offers a master's program. And it looks at human rights, animal rights, and environmental issues and how they're all interconnected. So it's a holistic approach to education. So if you're interested in more about that, definitely check it out. But my purpose here today is to inspire you to give presentations, or to do vegan outreach, or to just be able to talk to your family and friends about these issues. And you don't have to have a master's degree. You don't have to really have very much, as long as you're passionate about this subject. And obviously you are knowledgeable of the subject. And I'm constantly reading up on new things. And I'm going to show you some of the activities I do, because that's the point of this, to show you how to get into schools if you're interested, and to also show you what I found to be effective in my 15 years of presenting. So again, I give about 500 presentations every year, reaching over 10,000 youth and adults. Since 2007, it's been over 100,000 people I've presented to in person. I've been doing a lot of virtual, which is interesting because I don't see anybody right now. Tell you a quick story. So during the height of the pandemic, we were all in lockdown, and so the kids were all at home, and I didn't get to see anybody. In fact, the teachers didn't get to see anybody either. They weren't required to have their cameras on, or if they did have their cameras on, it would either be on like the wall with like a poster of like Scarface, or it would be at their ceiling fan. So I was just basically presenting to a bunch of fans for the last year. So it's nice to be back in school. And it's nice to be here with you today, even if I can't see you. I just assume that everybody's enjoying what I'm saying. Now, the majority of my time is spent in schools, and there's a reason for this, because schools are like prison, all right? The kids can't leave, and I'm always guaranteed an audience. Just like prison, there's always going to be people there. So it makes money. So I go to schools and I give presentations, and the hardest part about my job is simply getting into schools. So I'm going to give you some quick pointers about how to get in. But just so you know, I'm coming from South Florida, and Miami-Dade County is the 5th largest school district in the United States. Broward County is the 7th largest, and Palm Beach County is the 11th largest. I live smack right in the middle of all three. So I have access to hundreds of schools and universities. If you might be in the Midwest in the United States or somewhere else on this planet that maybe isn't as populated, and so it might be difficult. And there are other ways of doing this. You can give presentations in your library, in churches, synagogues, yoga studios. In fact, yesterday I presented in a yoga studio. In fact, this has been an interesting week. I've done 2 days of presentations in universities, colleges, 2 days of presentations in high schools, and a yoga studio yesterday, and then today is with you. So 7 days of presenting, and that's the way I like it. You can also do health food stores. I've done that. I've done prisons, juvenile detention centers. I've done not nursing homes, but assisted living homes as well. I've done community centers. So I've done a wide variety of different areas. And one of the best ways to get in is if you are either a volunteer or you're working for a nonprofit organization, an established group. And that could be an environmental group, it could be an animal rights group, it could be something dealing with health. If you're a dietitian, even better. Teachers would love to have you come in. You can also start your own nonprofit organization. Here in the United States, I believe it's around $300 to $500 to start a nonprofit. And another way to get into schools is to apply to be a substitute teacher. And so once you're in, you can incorporate veganism into the lesson plan. It might piss off a lot of people, but hey, give it a shot. If you get fired, don't. All right, so when I contact high schools, I typically reach out to health science teachers, so like biology, if there's a nutrition class, might be physiology, anatomy. I also reach out to physical education teachers who generally teach health as well. I also reach out to, let's see, what else is there? Sometimes it would be like marine science, or it depends on what kind of school it is, if magnet school, and it's like even the clubs. So like an environmental club. There's a program called HOSA, which is Health Occupation Students of America. They're amazing, like, because it's so easy to get into those clubs, and they're also classes as well. So they're always interested in hearing a different perspective. I try to keep the focus on health when I reach out to teachers in high school, just because it's not as, let's say, controversial than, say, like talking about the ethics of it, and it can apply to their curriculum. When I reach out to colleges and universities, the ethical argument is much more accepted in terms of like philosophy and logic classes, religion. So it really just depends on who you're reaching out to, and study the teachers you're reaching out to. I actually do like some stalking before I reach out to them to see, hey, maybe there's like a picture of them with like some dogs. And so that will kind of determine how I formulate my email to them. Now, I tend to avoid principals in the administration like plague. Most seem to be reluctant to embrace health and compassion for the sake of tradition. So if you do talk to a principal or administrator, try to keep the focus on health and the environment when promoting the presentation. It's important for the principal, the administration, and parents to feel that this information is not an attack on them and how they teach and raise their children, but rather a discussion on healthy, compassionate, and sustainable choices. Unfortunately, I've been expelled from about a dozen high schools, which is kind of funny because as a kid, I mean, I was a pretty decent kid in terms of behavior. I don't think I've ever went to the principal's office, but I can't seem to stay away from principals. So what happens is I usually give a presentation, and some kid will go home and tell their parent they don't want to eat meat anymore. And then the parent will reach out to the principal, not reach out to the teacher and ask what the presentation was about. I have no idea what the kid says, but that's usually the case. And some of the things that the teacher have told me that the parents have said is just completely absurd. So it's just like this knee-jerk reaction. So that's going to happen. The one way to alleviate that is sending home a letter to parents explaining the purpose of the presentation to help alleviate phone calls later on. So one of the things, I'm not going to show you the letter. You guys can always email me, james@arf.org. I'm going to put that in the chat right now. And I can send you a lot of the stuff that I just don't have time to really go over right now. So if you are interested in seeing like what the permission slip looks like, what the email that I send out looks like. But the permission slip at the end, after explains what the presentation is about, says, I hereby give permission for my child to attend this presentation. That's fine. You're going to get a lot of parents who don't sign it because, well, one, kids might not even give it to their parents or their guardian. So there's another way around this. You can actually, I created another one that says, if you do not want your child to attend this presentation, please sign this form. And everybody attends because kids are not going to give it to their parents, but you've covered yourself, the school is covered, everybody's covered. And hey, if there's a parent complaint, hey, it's the child's fault. It's not anybody's fault. So they didn't, that's not our fault. So let me give you some examples of the subject line, because obviously that's very important how you start out writing to a teacher. So sometimes I'll write plant-based nutrition presentation. Sometimes it will be guest speaker / free life-changing classroom presentation. I've been a little hesitant on the word free because I don't want it to go to spam, but it seems to work. Vegan presentation, a free presentation. That might be another title. And again, it depends on what I've kind of researched with these teachers. If I found out that they're showing Food Inc. or What the Health in their class, I might say, here, this is a vegan presentation. If it looks like I can't really find too much out about them, but I know they teach maybe biology, I might say, well, guest speaker, free life-changing presentation, or plant-based nutrition presentation if it's a course on diet and nutrition. I only do a few presentations outside of schools because there's no guarantee that adults will show up to a presentation, as is the case right here. I think there was like 86 or something like that. People signed up, and we have about 24. So thank you for showing up. If you do a presentation in the community, always advertise that there will be free food for those that attend, and that's free food in all caps. Okay. By the way, ARF does these presentations for free. We don't charge anybody for this information. But I actually have some volunteers who bring in food every now and then. And it's always fun, like when I do health fairs. So I'm not actually presenting when I do a health fair at like a high school or university. I'm just there showing a video about where their food comes from. I have literature. I'll talk about the literature I hand out. And we'll be offering like vegan chicken or vegan, you know, I don't know, like Beyond Meat or something. And the kids are very hesitant about it. They're like, ooh, you know, like what? It's veggie chicken? No, 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 no. But all it takes is one kid to eat. And then once that kid eats it, it's always the same response. The kid usually goes, that shit ain't bad. And that's it. And they all just hover around it. So all I need to hear is that shit ain't bad. And I know I'm good. So after I present, kids are way more likely to want to eat the food. Now, when I'm doing a health fair, they're not really getting the full information. But after I present, I provide them with food and they all want to eat it. And they all usually love it. A couple things before we get into the meat of the presentation. Dress nicely, professionally. Your appearance can give you more credibility right off the bat. And if a principal or administrator pops in on the presentation, it also puts you in a better light than if you were wearing a shirt and jeans or shorts, or even worse, jean shorts. I think the kids call them jorts. All right. Make an appetizing meal for lunch. Okay, this is one of those things is do as I say, not as I do. So make an appetizing meal for lunch, because what's going to happen is when lunch comes, you're going to probably eat with the teacher or with like the teacher lounge. So if you're making like a vegan lasagna, and this is like if you're presenting on veganism and you are vegan, a vegan burrito or a vegan cheese sandwich, so that when you're eating, with the teacher and his or her coworkers, they don't think that vegans eat just salads and potatoes. I happen to love salad and potato, but it's really not that appealing to teachers who aren't vegan. Just make sure that the food tastes good before you offer it to them. Bring your own equipment, okay? So I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. I have a 10-foot extension cord. I have AAA batteries, AA batteries. I have a USB. I have flash drive. I have, this is the USB adapter. I have the VGA cord. I have a remote control. I have external speakers. I even bring a second computer, laptop. I feel like Carrot Top. So I bring a lot of stuff. And the reason why is because I'm prepared for anything to go wrong. And usually something goes wrong. So make sure you're prepared. Okay, now I find, if you prefer speaking in classrooms, I actually prefer speaking in classrooms because it allows more room for discussion and less distractions than an auditorium. So I actually prefer the classroom, the intimate feel, than an auditorium. But I gotta say, if you have the opportunity to speak to hundreds of kids in an auditorium, please take it, because you might not get that chance again. Now, I find images more powerful than words. So when I present on veganism, the slaughterhouse video I show is definitely the most powerful part of the presentation. When I talk about the circus and animals in circuses, I'm going to show a video, undercover footage of what happens to elephants and tigers, because it's not enough for me to say it. They have to see it. And, obviously I give them a warning. I say, if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to watch it. This is the reality of the situation. A lot of times teachers, not a lot of times, just actually just a few times, a teacher will say, I don't want you to show it. That's fine. Because what I'm going to say is, your school, your principal does not want me to show you this video. And that piques their interest right away. So I say, you can go to, like I'm showing Farm to Fridge from Mercy for Animals. So you can go to, YouTube, type in Farm to Fridge, and you can watch it on your own. And because everybody has a cell phone, they just start watching it as I'm presenting, which is a little distracting, but I'm glad they're watching it. For adults, I usually don't show anything more than 2 to 3 minutes if it's, a graphic video, because again, adults don't have to stay. They're not locked in. So they can just leave whenever they want. So I try to keep it to a bare minimum. All right, when I first started talking about veganism, when I first started presenting on veganism, I focused almost solely on the ethical side of veganism. But what I soon found out is that if people think that they need to eat meat to get protein, they need to drink cow's milk to get strong bones, the ethical argument is not going to be enough. So I spend just just as much time talking about the health implications as well as the ethical implications. I think they're actually entwined. I think they're basically one and the same. And I've incorporated more on the environment as well. Try to keep the presentation humorous. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Nobody, especially what to eat. But if you can make your audience laugh at their own behavior, at their own behaviors, and you've won half the battle. So I'll give you an example. One of the things I do at the end, I say, because a lot of kids would just be like, I don't know, it sounds pretty difficult to be vegan. And so I'll be like, well, think about it this way. If I were to bring a hamburger, a cheeseburger into the room right now, and I imagine many of you would start to salivate, and some of you might even try to come up and eat it. You're like, whoa, hold on. Don't you want to know what it's made out of? It's made out of dog meat. You'd be like, oh, hell no. And you have a seat. Nobody wants to eat dog meat. All you do is change the name. I just change the name of the meat, and it no longer is appealing. In fact, dog meat could taste just as good, maybe even better than cow's meat, but you don't want to find out. So I try to get them to think critically through using humor and sarcasm. I'll give you another example. Not everybody might appreciate my humor, but I do. So one of the times, a lot of times when people be like, it's tradition, it's tradition that we eat. I go, that's right. We eat meat, dairy, eggs, and fish for 4 reasons: tradition, habit, convenience, and taste. Now, these are the very same 4 reasons why my dog eats shit. Yeah, that's right. My dog eats shit for 4 reasons. Reason number 1, apparently it tastes really good. Reason number 2, convenience. Everywhere we walk, there's shit. Reason number 3, habit. As long as I've known my dog, she's eating shit. And reason number 4, tradition. What would a walk be without eating shit? It just won't be the same. My dog's not eating shit for health reasons. We're not eating meat, dairy, eggs, and fish for our health. Not when the number 1 killer in the United States is heart disease. So again, something like that, again, you can twist it around, whatever you like. But again, I try to make my audience laugh. I try not to swear too much, especially in high schools. But I grew up in New Jersey, something in the water. All right, have a compelling opening. Please, if you're talking about veganism, I don't think it's really, if I'm giving a presentation to adults and the presentation is called 101 Reasons to Go Vegan, well, yeah, I mean, sure, I'm going to talk about veganism. But for kids, for high schools, and even universities, I don't like to actually, I don't want the audience to know at all what I'm talking about. I want it to be kind of like, they'll find out, they'll be like at the end, that's vegan. That doesn't sound too bad at all. So don't start out with defining the word vegan. I don't think it's necessary because I think a lot of times they'll have these preconceived notions that start coming out. Have a compelling opening for high school kids and college students. A lot of times it's be like, who's seen the movie The Matrix? And thankfully, The Matrix is still shown everywhere, and they're coming out with another Matrix in the it's the 4th one, so it's still relevant. For college, if a teacher if it's ethics and they're saying, okay, like James is going to talk about veganism, so I'll actually start by saying, all right, I got some good news, I got some bad news. The bad news is I'm going to try to change the way you eat. The good news, I only got 60 minutes to do it. So let's begin. So again, try to get them on my side. I kind of view the presentation as a chess match. I'm not very good at chess, but when I do play, it's kind of like I'm always trying to think of what my opponent's next move might be. I got to try to think 2 moves ahead. And so it's the same when you're presenting. You gotta want to know like what they're going to say. Like if it's veganism, they're going to be like, what about protein? What about calcium? What about iron? So I'm going to beat them to the punch. I'm going to answer those questions before they even have that thought of that question. And sometimes, sometimes they'll beat me to it. Like I had a kid once who'd be like, but other animals eat other animals. And I talk about that, but he beat me to it. And my response was like, no shit. And it just, the whole class is cracked up. One, I didn't think they probably didn't think I was going to say something like that. And the kid laughed as well. And it just kind of eased the tension. I mean, you got to just basically, find your style. And I tell people like, if you like what I do, use it, but make it your own. If you like what somebody else does, use it, make it your own. So you gotta find your own voice for this. And a lot of it is like this Socratic method that I try to deal with. You'll see people who do vegan outreach that do this. Like, it's back and forth, back and forth. When I present, it's a lot of it is rhetorical questions to get them to think critically. And again, I'm going to show you some activities of how I do that. There are some common questions when I do the vegan presentation. Obviously, what about protein? What about iron? What about calcium? What other animals eat other animals? What about humane slaughter? How does me going vegan stop other people from eating animal products? So again, try to answer these questions, before they even think about them. And this is also key. Like, how we communicate, right? So the words that we use, and I'm trying to be very careful with the words I use, and it's always kind of changing. I don't want to ever say that like, I don't want first to want to give anecdotal like examples, because I could say like, I got 20 friends, they're all vegan and they're all healthy. Well, person, you know, I'm presenting to be like, well, all right, great. All my friends are meat eaters and they're healthy. Doesn't really make much sense. I was doing a health fair at a university, and there was a volunteer who was helping me out, and there was some workers on the roof. They were fixing the roof, and they were kind of trying to see what we were doing, and she just kept screaming, "Vegans don't need Viagra. Vegans don't need Viagra." And it was just so bizarre. And the guys were like, "Yeah, we don't need Viagra either." So like, you know, like you have to just keep in mind that this anecdotal information is not necessary. Just use statistics. Just use, you know, sources and statistics to prove your point. You know, you can talk about yourself. You're like, all right, I've been vegan for 20 years. I'm fine. But I mean, that's, you know, somebody can eat meat their entire life and be fine. What I don't know if I've achieved this, but my point is not necessarily to say you can't be healthy eating animal products. My point is to say that you can be healthy on a plant-based diet. And that's really, I'd rather have them try to argue that, because they can't, rather than trying to argue that you can be healthy on an animal-based diet. I would admit that, yeah, you could put your body at a higher risk of certain things, but you could do just fine. You could be vegan and you could do terrible. So again, it's really just about, look, the Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, largest organization of dietitians, have come out and said. So instead of saying scientists say, or, you know, they say, you know, don't use those like, you know, things that you see on the news. It has to be a credible source. Like, I'll give you an example. According to the National Institutes for Health, 65% of the human population is lactose intolerant. So I'm giving you the source. So that's also key. So when we come to words, I try to say we and our instead of you. Like, I wouldn't want to say your diet is incredibly cruel and unnecessary. No, our diet is incredibly cruel and unnecessary, because they're not going to be as defensive that way. I'm not pushing them away. Oh, by the way, I did forget to mention this. If you guys have any questions, please type in the Q&A section. So there should be a button that says Q&A. So just type in any questions there. And at the end, we should have time. So just want to give you that. So let me give you an example. We did not choose our diet. Our diet is a learned behavior. Not you didn't choose your diet. Your diet, no, it's our. So it's a collective thing, because we were all part of this. Our diet was chosen to us by our parents based upon a cultural story. But I do throw you sometimes at my audience. After the video, after this really graphic video, I might say, I'll say, you know, this is a nightmare, 365 days of the year, and you're playing the villain. So again, I'm going to use it here and there, but I try to be all inclusive. If a student asks, like, where do you get your protein? Don't ever say that. That's a great question. It's not. Don't like give that question affirmation. All right. So I like to answer questions like that with humor and sarcasm. So when someone says, where do you get your protein? I say, from the supermarket. Where do you get yours from? So again, it's just, but after that, then I'm going to give them the sources. I'm going to say, all right, so now I'm going to list 24 sources of protein: peanuts, almonds, cashews, walnuts, baked potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, garbanzo beans, peas, lentils, brown rice, oatmeal, quinoa, pasta, spaghetti, veggie burgers, veggie dogs, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's fast. They don't have to hear any of it. The point is that it's just like that. I like the rhythm of this. Best thing I've had is kids like who are, when I'm presenting, they're tapping their feet to the rhythm of my voice. I've had one girl actually I have this a couple times where a girl kept going, apparently I was blowing her mind. So again, the idea is that speed and style is important, you know? And so it's just, you know, as important, like kind of, you know, your appearance as well. So again, I try to gear it towards my audience. I gave a presentation in Naples, and it was a Universalist congregational church, and I knew right away my audience was gonna be older. If you don't know what Naples is, it's the west coast of Florida and the southern west coast, and it's like where you go to retire or die. And so they were just like one foot in the grave, and they right away they were like, "You're talking too fast. Yeah, we can't hear you," even though I was on a mic. And I'm just like, all right, like I was trying to go as slow as possible. I don't think I've ever talked so slow in my entire life. But at the end of the presentation, there was a line of people that came up to me just to tell me how terrible I was. And, you know, you take your hits. You're not going to win everybody over. So I failed that audience. And if I had to do it again, I would totally have to change how I present. So I just thought I could do my usual thing, and it didn't work for that audience. All right, so don't exaggerate the issue. We kind of already talked about that. You know, veganism is not going to solve all the world's problems. It's not going to make you impervious to disease. It's not a panacea. But you can, you know, a whole foods vegan diet of fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds is the best way to keep saturated fat intake low and avoid dietary cholesterol completely. Be careful using the word natural. Everything we do is unnatural, although I do use the word natural, but everything we do is unnatural. Avoid cliched images. God, every like vegan documentary, when they're talking about the obesity epidemic, they show like a bunch of obese people on the beach. Like, you know, it's just with their backs. It's just, you know, try to get a little bit more creative. I like to use my hands, clap, stuff like that, breaks the monotony and the routine. I try to incorporate props. Like I'll use like a milk crate to illustrate what a battery cage looks like. I don't really focus on celebrities, but I do focus on athletes. I'll give you an example. Carl Lewis, who won like 8 gold medals in the 80s and maybe early 90s. I don't know if he's vegan. It really doesn't matter to my point. My point is that when he was running, there's videos of him saying the best performance I had was when I was eating vegan. So that's why I like to use athletes, you know, because they can say, well, they were vegan for this many years and they performed well. Try to stay, you know, up to date on pop culture. You incorporate it into your set. Questions about like God and abortion, stuff like that doesn't really come up that much, but it's really, you know, when it comes to like abortion, it's not relevant. You can give an answer if you want, you can give your opinion, but really what I say is like, it has no relevance because you can be vegan and before abortion, you can be vegan and against abortion. You can be vegan and religious, and you can be vegan and not religious. You know, veganism doesn't take you away from your religion, doesn't take you away from any of your beliefs. It just changes what you eat. So yeah, that's kind of these questions that sometimes come up. Just, you know, again, sometimes it helps to do vegan outreach on the street to kind of get a feel of how this might work. Okay, so I also like to leave my audience with literature at the end. I never give out the literature in the beginning because they'll just get distracted by it. So I create a vegan shopping guide. It's a wallet-sized brochure. It has over 100 different vegan products on the back. There's nutritional information, meal ideas, the vegan food plate, fast food options. So I also have a starter kit that I just created online. I've created a wildlife brochure that looks at animals in captivity. I rarely talk to kids younger than high school age because they don't really have a choice, although it appears that like middle school kids love my sense of humor, but I never get invited back. So when I talk to kids that age, I just try to focus on the basics of health of like all animal products contain cholesterol, which can clog arteries and lead to heart disease. No plants contain cholesterol. No animal products contain fiber, which is good for digestion. All plants contain fiber. No animal products contain complex carbohydrates, which is the original fuel for the body, for the mind. Only plants contain complex carbohydrates. I'll give you a quick activity that I would do with younger kids if I'm talking about veganism. I would say, okay, pick one of these 3 animals, a cow, a pig, or a chicken. And say, okay, now that you picked one of those 3, close your eyes, pretty please, with a cherry on top. And now with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine what it'd be like to be that animal. So picture yourself as that animal. Picture yourself, you know, everything around you, taking in all the smells, the sounds, the colors, the taste, the touch. And after about 10 seconds, I ask them to open their eyes. And I say, okay, you know, all right, anybody want to tell me what animal they were? Kid would be like, yeah, I was a pig. All right, what were you doing? Rolling in the mud. Why were you rolling in the mud? It was nice. I was like, okay. And I'll be like, oh, well, pigs roll in mud because, you know, they don't have sweat glands. It keeps their body cool, protects them from the sun. They're actually very clean animals. They're very intelligent too. Cleaner and more intelligent than actually dogs. And then somebody else might be like, I was the cow. It's like, oh, what were you doing the cow? You know, I was like, oh, I was you know, eating grass with my friends. And so I get them to think about it. And I say, so you kind of have this image that's on the carton, right? The milk carton. And then I say, well, this is kind of the reality. And I'll show them pictures of like where their food actually comes from. And it's not terribly graphic because they're young. I might show a video called The Matrix, which is an animated video. So again, just to get them to think critically about these things. So I want to actually quickly go over some of the presentations I do. I talk about, like I said before, companion animals, wildlife conservation, animals in our backyard, animal testing. So let me quickly show you some of the videos I do, or the activities I do. So hopefully everybody can see this. All right, so here is, I'm going to keep it like this so I can still see the, can still see you guys. Well, I can't see you guys, but I can maybe see the chat box. All right, so throughout these presentations, this is kind of something that comes up a lot, and I forgot to actually mention this last time I presented last Sunday. Are your actions in line with your values? All right, so are the things that you do in line with your ethics, your morality? We have a set of societal ethics and morality, but we also have some personal ethics and morality. And are your actions in line with those values? So this is one of the activities. If you were on the last chat last Sunday, what I ask kids to do, and this works for adults as well, you give them a piece of paper with one of four animals: a tiger, an elephant, an orca whale, or a dolphin, and you ask them to draw the background of this animal. Put this animal in a habitat, environment, a place that you think they'd be happiest living in and can meet all their needs. And 99 kids out of 100 are going to draw an ocean, a forest, a jungle, or savanna. And then I show them pictures. And I say, okay, which looks more like the animal that you drew? And so the question becomes, you know, why is it that we feel animals belong in nature, yet most of our experiences come from seeing animals in captivity? And then why do we do these things? And again, it goes back to, are your actions in line with your values? So that's just a brief thing I do. And I'm always doing some, you know, research on this. I'm just trying to get the screen to go large, but getting blocked. So I'm trying to figure out new things to add or things to take away, or like, you know, doing research on what's most relevant. So there's you know, social media is pretty cool in terms of like what it's put out there. I mean, not everything is accurate, obviously, but there's like some memes and stuff. So this is one of the things I saw recently, and I kind of said, oh, I can do this. So I just went on Google Maps and I found out this is what SeaWorld in Orlando looks like. And so I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is that there's ample parking at SeaWorld. The bad news is that SeaWorld cares more about the size of their parking lot than their orca tank. So when I say to kids, if you want to know what it feels like to be SeaWorld, if you want to know what it feels like to be Shamu at SeaWorld, I would normally say spend the rest of your life in a bathtub. Now I'm going to say, well, this is what it's like. You know what's crazy about this picture? You can see that there's like 2 bodies of water right by the orca whale tank. Those are bodies of water. They built an artificial lake for people. The lake is bigger than the tank that houses the orca whales. They obviously don't give a shit about their orca whales. This is a slide that has a lot of information, and I am not a fan of these type of slides. I don't like lots of words in my slides. You can see that my slides are very picturesque. And if I do have words, it's like this. And there's multiple things wrong. There's a lot of information. It's all very good information. I actually I volunteered to get to stop. It was Amendment 13 back in 2018, I think, to ban greyhound racing in Florida, and it passed. So it's a lot of information. It's all good information, but it's too much. It's just too much information on one slide. So I would prefer something like this. On average, 1 racing greyhound dies at a Florida track every 3 days. It's a powerful image, and I also gave the source of where it came from. So when you deal with a slide like this, fine, just maybe cut it up into like 3 slides to really like pound home what you're trying to say. Try not to read off of slides. Like, you know, the thing about this is you just basically be reading what it's like, okay, you create a slide just so you can read it. And I mean, every now and then I might do something like that, but I mean, I think it's really important to kind of have this stuff known. Like, I mean, I know I was looking at a script here and there, but you should kind of have this stuff memorized. So when I talk about animal testing, I start the presentation out by this. I give them a survey and I say, okay, I'm gonna give you a statement, and you either agree with the statement, you disagree with the statement, or you're undecided. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just your opinion. So the statement could be, animals like humans feel pain, fear, and distress. You agree, disagree, or undecided. Animals should be treated humanely. Preventing human suffering justifies the use of animals in scientific experiments. All household and cosmetic products like lipstick, cologne, perfume, soap, and shampoo should be tested on animals before being sold to humans. So this is kind of what we talk about. And so at the end of the presentation, I have them then go back and reevaluate and see if anything's changed. And it is interesting, you know, when we talk about these things, it's like, okay, well, is it okay to experiment on dogs and cats? Like, let's say we want to find a cure for cancer. Can we experiment on dogs? And if somebody says yes, they say, well, what about if it was your dog? I don't know about that. So things change when you make it a little bit more personable. You know, it's interesting when we talk about animal testing because the most commonly tested animal are mice and rats. And I ask the kids why. Well, why mice and rats? And I say, no, give me the reasons. Why do you think so? I mean, if a family member had cancer, what animal would you want to be tested on? You know, sometimes the kids will be like mice and rats. It's like, well, what does that say about your family member? So why mice and rats? And they're like, I don't know, like they're cheap, they're everywhere, they breed like crazy, they're easy to handle, they're disposable, I guess. You know, we don't really have a great opinion about, you know, most people don't have a great opinion about mice and rats. I mean, they're actually really cool creatures, but for the most part, our society just views them as a nuisance, as a pest. Are these justifiable? Are these actually scientific reasons for testing on mice and rats? They don't seem very scientific at all. What makes life valuable? I love asking this question. What makes life valuable? Because it's so hard for anybody to give an answer. And I love it when kids like, you know, money. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, well, what about the person who doesn't have any money, the person who's homeless? They have no value? And the kids will be like, life makes life valuable. I go, okay, let's go back to the mice and rats. Are they valuable? To themselves, they are. So do you have the right to choose whose life is valuable and whose is not? Where do we draw the line? So again, get them to think about these issues and give them alternatives. You know, it's not like, hey, you can't take a shower anymore because you can't use soap. There's obviously cruelty-free soap out there. I love this one as well. I took this picture. I was actually trying to take a better picture today, but I couldn't find a gas station that had it. Actually, I found one yesterday. I just forgot to take it. But most gas stations in the United States actually have this. I actually gave the answer away. I asked the kids, I say, where do you think I took this picture? I try to make things relevant. I try to make things applicable. And the cool thing about this thing is that it applies to everyone. It doesn't matter your demographic, your social economic status. We've all been here. And the kids will finally be like, oh, gas station. Right. Okay. How many have been to the gas station? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's read it. Prolonged high-level exposure may cause serious health problems. Long-term exposure to vapors has caused cancer in laboratory animals. That sucks. Okay. Long-term exposure. So I'm going to ask the kids. Define long-term. Quantify it. Okay. Like what? Give me a time. Give me a time. How long? What's long-term? The kid might be like, I don't know, like a week. I was like, okay. What about you? Like, I don't know, a month. What about you? I don't know, a few hours. I don't know, maybe like a year. Okay, so for me, it could be totally different, right? What does it mean for the person that works at the gas station? Now, how about this? If I said to you, like, let's say you were my class and we were in a classroom, and I said, okay, long-term exposure in this classroom has caused cancer in laboratory animals. What are you gonna do? You get the hell out of the room, all right? So we've just made it relevant. We made it applicable to you. All right. And so what does this say about animal testing? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it causes cancer. It's still on the market. You think we're going to get rid of gas anytime soon, oil? So like it's still on the market. It doesn't even matter if it causes cancer. So what's the point? Well, it protects the industry, right? Protects from lawsuits. They can say, well, we did test. So, but it doesn't really matter in the end because it's still going to go on the market. All right, I love to focus on the golden rule. All right, treat others as you want to be treated. All right, this applies to all my presentations. All right, I'm going to show you what I mean by the golden rule. So I actually do a presentation with younger kids, and it's called "The Animals in Our Backyard." And we look at, you know, the banana spider, and we look at the green and old lizard, and we look at the tree frog, and how they play a role in our ecosystem. And at the end, I say, okay, well, let's talk about, because we're all Earthlings. Anybody that's on this planet is an Earthling. And I say, well, who do you think is the most important Earthling? A lot of kids will be like, it's me, or it's humans, right? And I was like, all right, well, what about if we were to go extinct tomorrow? How would the Earth fare? It's like, no, probably pretty good. I mean, our dogs might suffer and our cats might suffer. But other than that, it seems like the world would actually might be a better place without us, right? So, because we cause a lot of destruction. This is not anti-human or anything. It's just the reality. We are the most powerful, right, on this planet. So we cause a lot of destruction. So the most important Earthling, and I give them the hint. I say, well, this is what Darwin thought. Charles Darwin said, and I asked them, you know, kids will be like bees, which is a very good answer, or they'll be like they'll say an apex predator. Bees pollinate. I'll say, well, Darwin said it was an animal that has no eyes, no ears, no nose, and no legs. And eventually somebody will say worm. It's funny, a lot of kids will be like, tree. No, it's an animal. But anyway, earthworms, right? And then I kind of go into the kind of the dynamic of what an earthworm actually looks like and why they're so important, because they lay the foundation for all life on Earth by digging in the soil and allowing water and oxygen to penetrate the soil. Which then brings us to the most dangerous earthling on this planet. And that's where this lovely box comes in, this beat up old box. I say, in this box is the most dangerous earthling on this planet. And the kids are like, even like the high school kids that are like the counselors in training, and then like the staff members who are like too cool to pay attention. But once I bring out the box, they're all like, everybody like starts to perk up. And I say, all right, we got two rules. Rule number one, don't tell anybody what you see in the box. Keep it a secret. And rule number two, don't put your hand in the box. You might not get it back. All right? Sleeping. So everybody gets to see in the box, and the box is a mirror. You see yourself. Although some kids be like, it's a mirror. Like, like what kind of, they don't get it, but they think the most dangerous earthling is a mirror. But yeah, so you see yourself, and I go, well, that's weird. How could we be more powerful and dangerous than like, the largest, animals on this planet, like orca whales and elephants and tigers and lions? And I say, well, in this box, my other beat up box, is the most dangerous weapon on this planet. And I like to be like guns. No, this actually does more damage, kills more animals than guns. And what I usually do is I dump it out on the table. I won't do that because that will just make a mess and upset my dogs. But basically, it's just a whole bunch of trash. And I say, where do you think I found all this trash? And kids will be like, the garbage. Well, no, I didn't find it on the garbage. I didn't find it in the garbage. I found it. And then kids will be like, beach. And I was like, that's right. Found it on the beach. And where does this stuff belong? Does it belong on the beach? No. Who put it on the beach? Humans. All right, where does this stuff belong? We can throw it out. We can recycle it even better. We can reduce, we can reuse, or we can refuse as well. And then I talk about how this can hurt animals. And I talk about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So again, get them to think critically about these issues. I like to do an activity with kids with this, where I say, we're going to go outside, we're going to do a scavenger hunt, try to find the animals that we just talked about, but you are not to touch. Look with your eyes, not with your hands. All right. So, and the reason why is I say, look, imagine aliens exist and they're like 50 feet tall. They come to planet Earth. They come to your home one night. They don't knock on your door. They don't ring your doorbell. No, they rip the roof off of your home. They find you in bed. They toss you around, and they put you in one of their big cups, one of their big jars. How is this going to make you feel? Pretty upset, pretty scared, right? Well, we're the aliens. We're the giants when we go outside. We're not to bother these animals. They do a lot for this ecosystem. We are simply to respect them. So again, getting them to recognize, and it's cool to see because a lot of kids will start picking up trash like in their community, and like literally in the activity that we start doing. They'll be like, look what I found. So they get to see it firsthand that the stuff I was talking about is there. And because I'm in South Florida, they get to see these animals too that perhaps they weren't aware existed, and their importance as well. I have my brother to thank for this one, if he's on. Hey, Matt. So this is a cool activity. Again, everything's kind of hands-on. So what I do is I say, all right, everybody's going to get one of these cards. And so you either get the letter A, B, C, or D. You can see my atrocious handwriting. So I say, all right, is this dog A, friendly, B, aggressive, C, stressed, or D, hungry? And the kids really get into this. The correct answer is C, stress. That's a stress lick. Tails between the legs, ears up and alert. Eyes are basically, the body is facing one direction, the head is facing the other direction. This is a Chihuahua at the vet hospital, is not happy at the vet. So this is a stressed dog that could become aggressive. Then I'll go to this one. A, friendly, B, aggressive, C, stressed, D, tired. And this is actually kind of trick question. It's also it's a stress yawn. Some dogs will yawn when they're tired, but sometimes they yawn when they're stressed. And this dog is actually at the vet hospital as well. And he's put on the scale, and every time he's on the scale, he yawns. It's not a coincidence. He doesn't like the touch of the scale on his pad. So this is a fun activity. Let me give you another one that I do with kids really quickly, and then I'll go to any questions you guys might have. So this is my companion animal presentation. Here. Hold on one second. Let me pull it up. So I give these presentations to like kids from 5 to 12 years during the summer. I do city camps So that's usually when I do these presentations. For the most part, I spend most of my time doing the vegan presentation during the school year. So I'm just trying to find this presentation. I had it up, but I think it got lost in all my slides that are open right now. Let's see, animal testing, companion animals. Here we go. All right. Hopefully this is the one. This is one thing here. This is one of those things where I can actually point out how you should be a little bit more prepared. I am prepared. It's just I had an issue with the computer, but obviously you don't want to have this kind of downtime. So I'll just use it as a benefit and say, here, I'm teaching you guys a lesson. Hopefully this is the one. That's not it either. I have so many presentations that they're now getting lost. PDF. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to show it to you because I can't find it right now, which is really disappointing. But what I do want to show you is this is an activity I do to get kids to understand the overpopulation problem, right? So you're going to get one of three animals, or one of three things to hold: a dog, a cat, or a home. And what I'm going to say is, okay, anybody who's holding a dog or cat, you're a cat or dog at the pound at an animal shelter. And what's the animal shelter trying to do? Trying to find you a home and try to find you a home fast. Now, I give about, let's say there's 25 kids in the class. I'll give 20 cats and dogs out, what it would be like 10 cats, 10 dogs, and then I'll give 5 homes. In the back of the home, it might say all pets allowed. It might say cats only, no dogs allowed. It might say small dogs only, no big dogs, cats allowed. It might say dogs only, allergic to cats. And so I have 5 kids come up with their homes, and I say, oh, you're the people with a home, and you want to adopt a cat or dog. So according to what it says in the back of your card, and so what happens is you end up with 5 animals being adopted and 15 that are not adopted. And I say, okay, and the kids really get into it. They're like, I say, give me your best puppy dog kitten look. And they really get into it. And at the end, they get disappointed that they weren't adopted. And I say, okay, now you know what it feels like to be a cat or dog at the pound. It doesn't feel too good. And if we don't find you guys a home in the next couple of days, couple of weeks, what might happen to half of you? So I've talked about euthanasia now. You're gonna be part of that statistic that says, 900 animals are euthanized something like every day or something like that in the US. So it's like about, I think the number is like 2 million or something, it might be higher. So a lot of animals are euthanized at shelters because there's not enough homes. So think about that next time you want your cat or dog to have puppies and kittens. So these are some of the activities I do. And again, it's all to get them engaged. It's to get them to think critically about these issues. I'm not there to tell them how to think, how to feel. I'm simply there to provide them with, a way of critically thinking. Oh, here we go. I finally found it. All right. Phew. All right. Here is the presentation on cats and dogs. So really quickly going to go over this. Tell you, it is interesting, the doing virtual, because it's just not, again, you don't get the same like interaction. And so one of the things I do is I ask my audience to participate by doing like Q&A and question and answer. All right, there we go. So there's the companion animals. We talk about the golden rule. We talk about harnesses and front clip harness, and I'll show him my prong collar and a choke collar, and I'll ask him, look, like, the point of this is to choke your dog. I mean, that's what it does. It chokes them. And how do you think your dog feels when he or she's being choked? And if you were the dog, would you want to be choked? So again, try to put yourself in their position. If you don't want to be pinched, don't pinch your dog. If you don't want to be choked, don't choke your dog. I talk about declawing. I like this one. I say, declawing is removing the first nail, the first bone in their paw as well as their nail. So if you're to declaw a human, the way to claw a cat, look a little bit like this. I had a kid once, it's a couple years ago, and it's kind of funny. He thought it was funny too. But so like I do this, and all the kids usually scream when I do this. But they scream in like kind of jokingly. But they all like turned around. They didn't scream. They all turned around. They're like, "Hey, it's Johnny!" And Johnny raises his hand, and he's like missing. He's literally looked just like that. but he was, he took it a good stride. I was like, oh God, sorry, buddy. But no, he was good. I talk about spay and neuter. So here's how I talk about cat and overpopulation. I get a visual image. So I say, imagine you got a male and a female dog, and they go on a date, and they go get spaghetti, pasta, bowling. Use your imagination. 6 months later, she's pregnant. So she's going to give birth to the average, which would be about 6 puppies. Now we're going to find out how many puppies we get from this happy couple in 2 years. So in 6 months, we got 6 puppies. And then basically, how many do you think will be girls? How many boys? Probably 3 and 3. So the 3 on the top are girls. In another 6 months, so a year from today, they're going to give birth to how many? So it's a math problem here. So the kids get to now figure out 3 times 6, 18. Okay, now we got to do the math. 18 plus 6, 24. So after 1 year, our happy couple are now the proud parents and grandparents of 24 puppies. But we're still not done. We're still near the year to go. So now, got to figure out, of the 18 you see on the screen right now, how many think be girls, how many think be boys? What's half of 18? 9. 9 on the left will give birth to 6 puppies of their own. Now what do we got? 9 times 6, 54. Let's do the math. 54. I go a little bit slower, but the point is that basically we're getting to the point where kids start screaming when they see this slide. And then this is the final result, 240 puppies. So again, visualize it, get them. I like to bring in food. If I'm talking about veganism, get them from all the senses, auditory, visually, they get to taste it. So they get the the emotions. One of the best explanation of my presentation on veganism was the teacher brought in her daughter, who was in her 20s or something. So she was watching the presentation and she was like, whoa. She was like, that was a roller coaster of emotions. So she's like, I was up and down. And so you want to engage your audience. You want to get them to think critically. 6.5 million cats and dogs enter shelters every year, and 1.5 are euthanized in the United States because there's not enough homes. So yeah, that is what I do. And if you are interested in doing it, please do it. And any questions, I'm here to assist. I want you to do what I do because anybody can do it. Just don't do it in my neighborhood. I got this turf. South Florida's mine. But anywhere else, you're more than happy to do it. Please, I'm here to help. I just want everybody to go out there because this information needs to get out. And if you don't want to do it, in the class, do it online. Do it like on social media. Even if it's just, you have questions about how to interact with family and friends.